We are here with Raghuram. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but distinguished professor at Chicago University, Chicago Business School, and former chief economist at the IMF. And so we just want to ask some questions to Professor Rajan. The first question is, in your new book, published, the third pillar, il terzo pilastro in Italian, you describe how the first two pillars, state and markets, left behind the third pillar, which is community. So can you very briefly explain to our listener in which way these three pillars are linked and how they interact with each other?
Well, we have, as I said, three pillars: the state, markets, and the community, which together, when they work well, hold up society and make it more prosperous. And I would argue the liberal market democracy, which we have, when it functions well, is because all these pillars work well together. What has been happening recently is that the markets demand much more of people. They demand much more in skills because machines can do a lot of routine work much more easily. And so we have a lot of jobs at the low end and some very good jobs at the high end. But to get those good jobs, you have to have much more skills. The problem is that in different countries, the community, which is the place where you get your early childhood education, you get your values, you get your training for the markets, the community in many cases is being hit by the markets and is falling behind. Not all communities are falling behind, some are doing very well, especially in the big cities. But in rural areas and semi-urban areas, you find the community is falling behind and unable to support people, to enable them to get the skills to participate in markets. And that's the central theme in the book, that technological change has created disruption, but it is affecting different areas of every country differently. But unfortunately, the areas that have to adapt the most, that is the areas which are hit the hardest, are also least able to adapt because the community is also breaking down there.
Thank you very much. And our second question, very quick in a sense, is in which way this concept that you describe of community is different from, for example, the concept of social capital described by Putnam in his work, well known. So basically,
the community is more than social capital. It's not just about whether neighbors get along together, but it's local institutions, such as schools, whether they are functional. It is about local power, whether you have the ability to make changes. In many cases, you may be very good neighbors, but you have very little power to make the changes in the local institutions because a lot of power has migrated to the national capital and from the national capital to the international arena. So the book, in a sense, says we need stronger communities. That means the social capital that Putnam is talking, but also better local institutions, also more local power, so that people in the community feel a sense of engagement and feel that they can do something about the forces that are affecting them. Today what we have is the unfortunate combination of communities being hit very hard, but people not feeling they can do anything about it. That's what I argue we should reverse.
Another question I would ask, that it's maybe not so easy to answer, I don't know, but the fact is it possible, and if yes, how, to empower this institution, I don't know if it's correct to call it institution, this concept of community, if the very definition of community is kind of decentralized respect to, for example, state and market, where there are like centralized institutions, then it's very easy to act on them.
So one of the broad themes of the book is that the market wants centralization because the market wants uniformity. And because the market demands centralization, governments also become more centralized. And in fact, even the world becomes more centralized because there is international government as opposed to national government. Think about the EU. The EU is a kind of internationalization of government because you want a common market with common procedures everywhere. And so more power is taken from the national governments into the European Union. And this is what, for example, people in England are complaining about. They say we want to take back control. But I think once we recognize that in a sense we have taken away powers from the local to the national and from the national to the international, then we realize that we may have gone too far. The European Union has this principle of subsidiarity. Actions should be taken at the lowest level where those actions are capable of being taken. Powers should remain there. Unfortunately, that has not been respected, and more powers have migrated up. Given that we are in this situation, we should start asking how much power can we push back so that the local community has the ability to act on the forces that are affecting it. Because these forces are so different in different places, having the local ability to act is much better than having a central ability to act. And the local ability to act also allows you to have a local sense of engagement, which creates that local social capital, which is also so important.
Thank you very much. And I will go with the last question, maybe, and is about is it? Do you think that redistribution, let me rephrase, that building the community is much more effective than just act on a redistribution scale by the state, and linked to that, if a recent work of a historian from Stanford, Mr. Shadle, in a recent book called The Great Leveler, studying history, that the redistribution and inequality is lowered only through catastrophic events throughout history. So my question, summed up, is: do you think that the community can, in some way, repair this kind of growing inequality that is taking place, and also reverse, in such a sense, or letting the inequality be less severe, in a sense, if there is such a sense of belonging to a community?
Yeah. What I am arguing for is a leveling up. Let's create more capabilities in people so that they can do the new jobs that are coming. And incomes can be equalized, but not by pulling down those who already have high incomes, but pulling up those who have low incomes. Redistribution keeps the pie constant, or in fact reduces the pie by reducing incentives. That's one way to equalize. But wouldn't it be better to expand the pie, but move more people up to get more of that? My sense is you need a little bit of both, but you have to be careful about redistribution. Redistribution to improve capabilities, I think, is much better than redistribution simply as a giveaway. Because after all, when people have strong capabilities, when they know that they have a good capacity to earn income, they feel much more confident. They feel much more of a sense of satisfaction than if they were to get a check in the mail every month from the government saying, do nothing but just be happy with this check. So the quality of lives is much more improved if you focus on using whatever money you have to improve capabilities. And I am arguing that those capabilities start at the community level. If we don't strengthen our communities, there's no hope. If you start with a terrible school, you have no hope of getting to university. And if you don't go to university, you have no hope of getting a good job today. So start early, start with the community, strengthen all the aspects, and I think you will get more equalization. Today, we don't get it simply because of the differences in what happens early childhood.
Thank you very much to Professor Rajan.
Thank you. Thank you.